Hello, hello, everyone. Hello, hello. I was just going to make a little post and then I got a bit distracted making a funny picture that never made it up. So, anyway, I might post it, but maybe not. Anyway, welcome. If you are just joining me, this is day two, part two of a four-part series. And if you don't know who I am, I'm Jen Plotnikoff, creator of Deep Courage, which is my alchemical process for transforming the stuckness, the chronic stuff, the sticky stuff, the stuff that maybe we've been working on for a really long time, into really transmuting it to something completely revolutionary. So that's my process. I'm a fear alchemist. So I'm going to be talking about making friends with the enemy today, fear. I'm going to talk a little bit about fear alchemy and what that is and why we need it. And I'm also a self-healing expert. So I am a not just believer that we can heal ourselves, but my understanding, my experience in my own life, my own healing journey, as well as my experience with my clients and others around me, is that this is the key, that we do need to, in order to really come to a sense of wholeness and healing, we do need to ignite that inner spark within, that inner intelligence within. We need to have all of our intelligences online, in line, and coherent, working properly. So if you're just joining me, welcome. If you haven't seen yesterday's live, if you're watching this sometime in the future or in a different platform, you can go back to part one whenever you'd like. So I'm just going to do a couple things. I'm just going to do a quick recap of what we talked about yesterday. I'm going to talk a little bit about where we're going today. And then I'm also going to just kind of talk about where we're going to go in the next couple of days. Because again, this is part two of four. So there's more coming. So yesterday what I taught was a really simple way to come into the present moment. A really simple and effective way to come into your body, get grounded. And the reason why I led you guys through that exercise, I also in the comments left a guided meditation in that video. I left that as your home play or homework, but more fun because it's playful, as a different option as well. And the reason why that was so important was we talked about yesterday how important it is to first prepare the foundation and actually repair the cracks in the foundation around us, right? So internally, most of us have a fairly unstable connection to really what safety really is. I mean, we can think about it, but that's one of the reasons why we need all the stuff to feel safe, right? We need the right relationship, we need the right house, we need the right friends, we need the right community, we need these external things to feel safe because there are serious degradations or incompletions in the foundation internally. So that's why we tend to rely on the outside world to feel safe. We need inherently to feel safe as human beings. So that's why yesterday we started with what does safety just feel like in being in now and present? And it was a really simple little exercise. If you haven't looked at that, you can go ahead and watch the replay a little bit into the future. But for right now and for today, what I'm going to talk a little bit about is what fear actually is, because there's a lot of myths around there. So I want to kind of break some of those down. And I want to talk today about why we actually need it. Yes, we need fear. It's important. It's really important. The thing that we don't need is to ignore it, to push it away, or to try to block it. So that's what we tend to do because it's not comfortable, it's not an easy thing to deal with, and we haven't really been given the tools to how to work with that stuff. So in order to actually you know, work with it. Alchemy is kind of like cooking, right? In order to really cook with fire, you need to learn that fire is not inherently dangerous. It's a tool that we can use to make delicious and wonderful things in our life. And fire is that. Fear, sorry, is one of those elements of those fire. It's a type of fire that we have accessible to us. So one of the things I teach in Deep Courage, and some of the elements that I really want to teach today and in this series, which are really pieces out of Deep Courage, if you're curious about what that's about, are really helping you understand and start to, in your own way, one, repair some of those foundational things so we can start to reorientate to what safety is, so that we can work with these different tools that are available to us, these different energies that are available to us. And then in the next couple of days, we're going to work with some little practices that we can do to actually put that into practice. And again, as I talked about yesterday, I want to try to keep these a little bit more compact and condensed as learnings. Yesterday, I went way over what I was hoping to go over, so in terms of time. So I hope today that I will be able to keep this part two in a little bit more of a manageable time frame. So if you are just joining, I see we have Laura and Caroline and Jennifer. Thank you so much for joining me. And do feel free to say hello. I love, like yesterday, we had a couple really great questions and comments. So I love to be able to address those and answer those for you live. So if you are joining me live, please feel free to say hello. Let me know that this is an interactive experience, that we're sharing energy and communing together, because really I am looking at a screen. So I am tapping into your energies, but it helps to have that play with engagement. So if there's something strikingly that really resonates with you, let me know. If there's a question or something comes up, let me know. And if there's something you totally disagree with or don't understand or are struggling with, also please let me know, because I would love to address those things. Here's the thing, if there's something that's really triggering for you, you're not alone in that. So we have really common triggers, right? And this is why, one of the reasons why when I work in group work, I always offer one-on-one work, because even though as a group, as a collective, we have these collective triggers, they can sometimes come out in unique ways. So it's really helpful for others as well to see where your unique experience is coming from. So before I get into it too, if you guys are curious a little bit about Deep Courage and more, I will be talking about that later on. So there's more information, or if you just want to ask me questions right now, if you're really, really curious, you can always just message me. You can just inbox me and we can set up a chat. So just know that those are available to you. So before we get started, a couple things I want to do. One, let's quickly settle together. Two, I have this beautiful card that I pulled from yesterday. So I actually want to start with a little bit of a challenging channeling, which is actually going to lead us perfectly into, because I'm feeling this card really strong right now, it's going to lead us into where we're going today. So really simply, I just want you to check in with your three centers today. Again, yesterday I kind of talked a little bit about the three kind of centers of mass: the head, the chest, heart, back of the heart area, and pelvis. So whether you are sitting, whether you're laying, whether you're reclined, just take a moment to stop multitasking, come into your body for a moment, come into the present moment. So whatever you were thinking about, whatever you're going to do next, just let those be in their respective places of past and future. And just start to really notice just what the tactile, physical experience is of sitting or laying. So just notice support beneath you. Notice that the earth is holding you. Notice where you feel heavy. Even if you're sitting, just checking into your sit bones for a moment and just checking in from the left side to the right side to left side, just noticing if you feel heavy in your chair or the floor. Are you feeling light? Even just tapping into the simple sensation on your skin of the pressure beneath you. The feeling of your skin being squished as it's being supported by earth, by gravity. So just checking into, feeling into that squishiness, feeling into the weight of your bones. And I just invite you to continue to notice this sensation of being supported from beneath as I kind of go into what this card has to tell us. So I'm going to post actually a picture a little bit later on, or I'll post a picture perhaps below. This is the Hunter, number 27. The Hunter really represents the cycle of life. So in order to survive, this is core fundamental survival stuff coming up. In order to survive, we must meet our basic needs. And one of the things that particularly I see in the spiritual community is the demonizing of our survival instincts. And I think we forget that survival is not just a means of hurting others in order to better yourself, but survival is rather a symbiotic relationship between prey and predator. And this is something we see in the natural world. It is designed this way. I see this struggle sometimes, often, it comes out in sometimes our dietary choices. I grew up, I don't know about you guys, I grew up vegetarian, and the belief system that was fed to me was that, meat and animals were evil to eat because they were dead and death, and you're eating death. And one of the things that I understand now is a lot of that energy in my own experience coming from my own family really had to do with fear of death. It had to do with fear of this unknown and a misunderstanding of where we fit in the natural world, in the natural order, in the cycle of life. Survival is part of this. Survival is part of this. And survival covers not just our physical needs, but at a core, a sense of safety and well-being, right? So when I talked about the foundational piece, this is the fundamentals. And so what the Hunter actually teaches us is how to work with our survival, how to work with our instincts, how to respect our instincts. The Hunter actually uses ritual, uses gratitude and thanksgiving for the sustenance of her life, his life. The Hunter understands that he is also prey and predator. He understands her place is both, not only one. So remembering that the death of one is also the survival of the other. And this is part of the synergy that is this earthly experience, right? It is just as spiritual. Survival is just as spiritual as ascendance. Okay, this is really, really important because particularly in the spiritual world, we put so much emphasis on evolution and personal ascendance. But we need to master survival. And when I'm talking about mastering survival, we're not there, okay? Buying up all the toilet paper so that others don't have any because you're feeding into pandemic has nothing to do with survival. And those expressions, those really unhealthy expressions of fear, is why we think fear is the enemy instead of understanding its role in our place. Okay, so fear. Fear is our instincts, and we need those instincts. One of the things is when we are driven from instincts alone without the balance of heart, without the balance of mind, without the balance of the wisdom that lies within our bones, we are actually reacting. So coming back to that place of, I'm not safe. I'm not safe. I'm not safe. This is the story. This is the real that's playing in our inner game. And we don't even know that's the real that's playing, but it's playing. So what happens is when we are faced with the turning up of the volume globally, whatever has been happening, I talked about this yesterday too, whatever is happening internally inside you, the volume just got turned up. So collectively, we do not have a healthy relationship with fear. It's obvious. It's why we think it's the enemy. But fear is not what is actually driving us to harm others. I'm going to say that again because it's really important. Fear is not what is driving us to harm others. It is not what is driving us to pollute the very waters that we require for our survival. Do you see the issue here? When we're actually connected to our survival and our fear in a healthy, whole way, we would never pollute the waters we need to drink. We would never do that. The wild animal, the instincts of the wild animal knows not to contaminate the life source that they need to survive. So I want to talk for a moment what's actually happening here. What's actually happening here? A really simple way to think about this is, when we're really young, when we're really little, we are not given the tools, we're not given the skills that we require. Because here's the thing, is collectively, we are just starting to awaken to these intelligences, these body intelligences that we have. So we're not conscious about these tools that we have, that we already have built within. I'm talking about body intelligence, the intelligence that grew your organs, the intelligence that knows how to breathe, that intelligence that knows how to circulate blood throughout your whole system. We don't trust consciously this intelligence. There's kind of a divide that's been happening for a really long time within our being, where our body wants to be an animal being, and our mind is telling us that no, it's okay. Particularly, I'm going to give you a really good example because, we all understand that when we are being chased by a lion, for example, we're going to run, right? Everyone understands that. One of the biggest misunderstandings is in current day society, when your boss is yelling at you, when someone is threatening you energetically, emotionally, verbally abusing you. The interesting thing that happens is your body knows what to do. Your body knows that this is not okay and that it is damaging your chances of survival. Your body knows fight, fight, flee, right? But what's happening is your mind is telling you that you're fine. Everything is okay. And that's at best. At worst is not only is your mind telling you that you're fine, but on top of that is actually trying to transcend these screamingly loud messages that your body is telling you. Right? This is the body wisdom I'm talking about. Your body knows how to come back to neutral. And I get it. You're thinking, Jen, it's not appropriate to scream back at my boss. Jen, it's not appropriate to yell at my kids. It's not appropriate to get into a fist fight with someone in the grocery store or the supermarket who is being rude to me unnecessarily, right? And I agree with you. I'm not telling you to fight, to scream, but I am telling you that your body needs to fight in some form. It needs to process in that way. It needs to acknowledge what's happening, because what you're doing right now is you are telling it that nothing's happening and something is happening. It is happening. And if you don't believe me, look at the state of the world right now. We have been telling ourselves everything is fine, and it's not fine. It's not fine. It's not okay to be yelled at. It's not okay to be abused. But it is okay to feel afraid. And this is something that we have been told for a very long time. We've been told the very opposite. We've been told, overcome your fears, transcend your fears. We're not spiritual if we're afraid, right? Here's the thing. If it wasn't spiritual, we wouldn't have access to it. The difference is how we work through it. So what we're doing is we're trying to work through it without having the foundation pieces together, right? We are on step 3, 4, and 5, trying to skip over steps 1 and 2, right? So this is the vital piece in deep courage that I speak to, because I see people who have been doing a lot of self-work for a long time. I see people who've been struggling with chronic disease for a really long time, who've been struggling with burnout. And we know, and by saying we, I am in that camp. I have also struggled with burnout, with chronic fatigue, and with chronic pain. What's happening when we're in chronic illness is we are in a state of confusion within our system. The whole is not communicating properly because our body is trying to tell us one thing, but we're overriding it with our mind. So how do we get out of our own way, right? How do we get out of our own way? Step 1 is what I introduced yesterday. Just the simple connection of a felt sense of feeling good and whole in our being is the very first thing that we need to do to deepen and broaden our inner root system. If you think about it, it's like a tree. If you ever have planted anything, any little plant into the ground, you know that the first thing to grow is the roots. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to produce flowers on a plant that does not even have roots, has half of a trunk, and has a couple sad little limbs and leaves trying desperately to survive on sunlight and spiritual wisdom alone. We need to have roots in order to ground. So the series, I called it How to Stay Grounded. People, this is about the earth. This is about our connection to the earth. This is about learning how to grow roots and heal and repair the roots that we already have. From those who are familiar with the chakras, this is first chakra stuff. And I cannot stress how important it is to really understand first the first chakra stuff before we start to ascend and transcend. Because the first chakra is the information we need. It's the key. It's the bridge that we're looking for, right? Without the roots, without a strong root system, just for an understanding, if you have a tree nearby, if you're looking out your window or the next time you're looking out the window or looking at a tree, just appreciate this. Every single piece of foliage, all of the branches, I'm actually looking at this beautiful tree that's right in front of me outside my kitchen window here. Everything that you see above ground, that everything that is below that tree in terms of its root system is the same in quantity or greater. I'm going to say that one more time. So whatever you see up here in terms of a tree branches, you're going to see down here the same mass, if not greater. Because nature knows that it's necessary to have foundational base, to have roots. We cannot survive crisis. You know, imagine a tree with half of its root system gone in a windstorm. Of course, the tree is going to fall down, right? It lacks the stability it needs. But what we have been doing in ignoring our difficult emotions like fear, trying to kind of bypass around them and transcend them, is these are the very things that are actually teaching us how to grow our roots, how to grow them deeper, broader, right? This is about wholeness. When our root system has breadth and depth, we can survive even the most strongest hurricanes. And not only that, but yesterday, I can't remember, it was Mary who was on that was talking about her husband being in a lot of fear right now. And I said, stay in your own stuff. Here's the thing. When we can take care of our own root system, when we can be that grounded tree, we can not only grow spiritually, emotionally, and really truly transcend, but we can also shelter and hold space for others that are just starting on their journeys, right? So if you are a space holder, if you are a teacher, if you are a practitioner, if you are a healer, you especially are here to grow and deepen your root system. So a couple little elements that I just wanted to share. The expression, we get confused again with our expression of what's going on right now. And it's not fear. So anxiety is not fear, okay? Anxiety is stuckness. It is like, I kind of explained this yesterday, it's kind of like our radio dial gets stuck on one channel. When we work with fear, fear allows us to actually fine-tune in to whatever radio station we need access to at that moment. Fear is what actually allows us to be precise, refined, clear, concise, and connected to our intuitive capacities. So what I want you to do for your home play, so it's home play time, is explore a little bit. I'm going to give you a couple of prompts, and what I want you to do is actually come back. Part of your home play is going to be actually sharing some of this down below, and I will share you a couple of mine. So what I'd like you to do is take some time to do the grounding exercise. So after doing the home play from yesterday, which was like kind of grounding into ourselves, you can also listen to the resourcing meditation. That is a free audio that is in the comment section for day 1 or part 1 of this series. So you can go back to that and listen to that as a primer for this exercise. It's a writing or journaling exercise. If you're not a big writer, that's okay. If you're more of a visual artist or a visual person, you can actually draw this out. But what I really want you to do is just get it out of your head and being and onto something physical like paper. So you're going to list 5 ways that you really believe that fear is evil. Fear is holding you back. Fear is destroying your life. Fear is destroying the planet. Whatever comes up for you, just unfiltered. What are 5 things that you really believe, whether you want to believe them or not? Just let yourself spill it onto the page. Just be honest with yourself. As one of my coaches says, tell the truth, shame the devil. I love that. Just tell the truth. Let the shame air out, right? Just put it out there. And then, and this might be a little bit more challenging for you all. So here's the interesting part. Then you're going to list 5 things where fear has helped you, where fear has actually really helped you, nourished you, and made a positive impact on your life. Right? Okay. The other thing that I really want you to consider is, if you find this exercise challenging, if stuff is coming up, just write down what comes up for you as you do this. And if you're brave enough, share. So the other piece I mentioned is you're going to write down 5 things where you feel like fear is evil, it's holding you back, it's wreaking havoc on the earth, on the planet, on our relationships. You're going to list 5 of your top reasons. Then you're going to list 5 reasons why fear is actually helping you, healing you, and making you a better person, impacting you positively in your life, impacting the planet in a positive way. And the other thing, actually just be careful with this. I want you to be honest about it. I want it to come from here. So it's easy to say, oh, everything is wonderful and this is actually going to be for the better. Okay, that is positive thinking, but spiritual bypassing. We will have none of that here, okay? And I will call you out on it if that's what you're sharing in the most kind and gentle and loving way. But what I really want is to be honest. And I'm going to give you a couple examples just so you know what I'm talking about from my own personal life and experience, just so you're clear. And the third thing is write about what's coming up for you as you write through this process, okay? So 5 things why fear is bad, 5 things why fear is actually really positive, and how this whole thing is making you feel. Talking about the fear, writing about the fear, what's coming up for you, right? The second part of your home play, so that is your personal journaling. What I'd like you to do is come back down below here and actually leave your, share 1 negative thing and 1 positive thing from your list of 5 here in the comments in part 2 of this video. Okay, so come back and actually share this. And for those of you who are watching this in the future, for those of you who are watching this in the replay, please do still share, okay? Because first of all, I come back to those comments, right? The other thing is, if stuff's coming up for you, whatever, you can always reach out to me. But feel free to share, because when you do share that, you also kind of unveil the shame door of darkness for a lot of the stuff that a lot of us are feeling, right? And as Brene Brown talks about, who's a shame expert and researcher, when we actually put this stuff, like when we put our fears, when we put our shame, when we put our darkness into a petri dish and we show it in a safe environment, it gets to see the light, and it cannot, our shame cannot survive. So we actually get to see it for what it really is. So I'm not going to list 5 things, but I'm just going to share with you one example of where I believed fear was really negatively impacting me, and then one way where it's been really positive in my life. So one way that I really believe that fear was really negative is more in my active lifestyle. So for those of you who know me well, know that for 15 years, I rock climbed, actually more than 15 years. I think I started when I started in climbing gym when I was on my 16th birthday. I decided that I was going to have my birthday at the climbing gym and learn how to rock climb. Little did I know, and this would be a theme for me with fear for a long time in my life, is I was so afraid of climbing. I was so afraid when I was climbing that I would not get very far. I would, the first time I remember that time I did go as a 16-year-old, and I would get up maybe like a meter or 2 off the ground, and then I would freak out and freeze, and I wouldn't be able to go up. And as much as I wanted to go up higher, I saw my friends going up to the top, and I started to believe, like, what is wrong with me? And I started getting so angry with myself and disappointed in myself and so hard on myself. And I felt so ashamed that I couldn't do something that was so simple and basic that everybody else seemed to do so easily. And it frustrated me so much. I was so hard on myself. So what I realized was this was a really negative impact, because it would actually pull me into this shame spiral. And it would be a theme that would come through me throughout my whole life. I could even, a year ago tell you about going surfing and missing a wave because I was too afraid, and then punishing myself all the rest of the day, sometimes even the rest of the week, and telling myself how much I sucked and how much of a wimp I am, and why can't I just go for it? I know how to do it. Why can't I just believe in myself? So that whole negative shame spiral, self-talk, all of that stuff really impacted me in a negative way. That's one way that I really believed fear was negative. And one of the things I said is believed fear is because now my experience has really changed. So actually, that same experience, that same theme, I've actually come to learn and understand that it's actually been a really, really powerful learning tool for me. So what I've realized was, once I realized that my fear was actually a normal response, once I realized, and it was interesting because I was watching a video of a surfer that I follow, Nathan Florence, who's famous for riding massive barrels and waves. I mean, he does crazy ass shit, right? And he is young, balls to the walls, this kind of guy, right? Like, when I think about my surfing, I don't think about looking up to him as like, this is what I wanted to be when I grow up, because I never want that. But what was interesting was he was doing a Q&A, and he was talking about his experience about when he first got into big wave surfing, and even now. And he talked about the exact freaking same experience where he went out and he didn't do anything, and he was frozen and he couldn't surf anything, and he came back to the boat and he was beating himself up. And I thought, oh my God, that is me. That is me. And when I looked at, where he is now, and what's interesting is he talks about, he's like, every single time every single time I go out, I am terrified. And he said, actually, he said that, he's like, if I'm not terrified, I think that there's something wrong. Because he said, fear, puts me into a state where I am in tune with my instincts. I know that I am performing at 150% capacity, not 50%, not 75%. I am so in tune with the ocean. And when he was talking about the power of really flipping the perspective around his fear, this is exactly the process, by the way, that happened to me. Of course, I don't surf big waves, but now when I get scared, I remember and I tell myself, every surfer gets scared when they drop into something big. Every human gets scared when we're about to do something that pushes us, grows us, and expands us. And so when we get to remember and actually remind ourselves that that's actually a good thing, my experience of the fear experience through my body, through my being, is no longer associated with shame, beating myself up, negative self-talk, beating myself down and beating down my self-esteem. I now see fear as one of my superpowers. This is what fear alchemy has really taught me. Practicing fear alchemy has allowed me to shift from fear stops me to fear helps me. And I described this actually maybe a couple months ago. I was talking about this experience that I had surfing. And I kind of had this moment where I realized when I was really on my game, when I was really focused and aligned, and I did magical things that I didn't believe were possible, it was because I was fully aligned and in flow state with my fear. So this is how I understand, and I can speak to you from an honest place, that fear is not about hurting or harming, but it is about survival. It's about aligning with the true and pure intelligence that survival is. The instincts that tell us, yes, this is right for me. I'm going to go for it. Here's the thing. If we all stayed in safety, we would never grow. If that little seed never took the risk of putting down some roots and sprouting up, we would never have the beautiful plant, flowers, and fruit that blossom, right? We would never have the internet. We would never have technology. I wouldn't be talking to you right now, right? Everything innovative, everything excitingly interesting, everything creative came through fear. It came through a state, and Brené Brown talks about this all the time. She talks about vulnerability and how important it is for us to be in healthy relationship with vulnerability, because when we can be in healthy relationship with being vulnerable, it is a scary state. We have to be in flow state with fear. We have to have a good relationship with fear. Fear is not going anywhere. It's here to help us. So my question to you is, how is it helping you, and how can it help you? How can your relationship shift to help awaken those creative potentials in your life, creative potentials in your own healing process, in your physical healing process? That's what body intelligence is. It's creative potential. So, my dear ones, again, I have gone over, but it's okay. I feel like I needed to say all that. I feel like you needed to hear that transmission. So I hope this was helpful. Again, quick recap for home play. 5 things you think that fear is terrible. 5 things you feel like fear is actually helping you in an honest way. Really speak to your heart. And how talking about this, how actually being in this space and talking about this openly, what that's bringing up for you. And share one of your 5 things for negatives and one of your 5 for positives in the comment of this video, please. So that is today. Tomorrow, I'm going to be giving you some more tools about how the hell can we expand the root system? So what are some other tools that you can actually take into your every everyday life, every single moment and opportunity, because this life really is a learning opportunity. This is the school of life. So here are some practices, mind shifts, and lessons coming for you tomorrow and Monday for how we can start to work with what I call fear alchemy. Okay, so that's coming to you tomorrow. So please join me same time, same place on my personal page here on Facebook if you're joining me live. It is 1 p.m. for me, but it might be different times for all of you. It will be 12 Pacific time if you are in North America, except for Mexico, because of course we're on a different time zone than everybody else right now. I think we're on Latin time. So we're always on Latin time here. Anyway, join me tomorrow, noon Pacific time in Canada and the US. And Monday as well will be the last day. And again, I will be sharing with you guys a little bit more about the deep courage process, but I just wanted to remind you that these pieces and these lessons are nuggets and pieces of the core foundations of what I teach in that program. So if this is really speaking to you, or if the other stuff that I've been teaching for the last year has been speaking to you, you can just connect with me through a private message directly. We can have a conversation, because if you have seen on my profile, I will be opening level 1 to Deep Courage as a group container at the end of this month, actually in 20 days, right after Earth Day, which is the 22nd, 23rd is the new moon, and 24th we start Deep Courage level 1. So a lot of potency happening for this month of April. I'm really excited. I'm really pumped, and I'm super happy for all of you who join me live, for all of you who are going to be watching this in the future on the replay, sending you lots of love. I will see you tomorrow, and happy rest of your Saturday. Mwah.